Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, I'm j-fallon. Frustrated about this next story that we're going to look at. Northern Territory Police Officer Patrick Carson is found not guilty of raping a young woman. After listening to almost 2 weeks of evidence and reading hundreds of pages of text messages, a jury has found the NT police officer is not guilty of raping a young woman. Senior Sergeant Patrick Carson spent nearly a fortnight in the dock after pleading not guilty to 2 charges: sexual intercourse without consent. Prosecutors had accused him of twice raping a young woman he befriended through a shared interest in 2020. There are no winners in a case like this, Mr. Carson said on the steps of the Supreme Court after the verdict, holding his wife's hand and surrounded by friends and family. Mr. Carson thanked the men and women of the jury for reaffirming his innocence. I'd like to acknowledge and thank my wife, my family, and my friends for their unwavering support across the past 21 months. I look forward to putting this painful period behind us. Court heard of hundreds of messages between complainant and cop. The senior sergeant has been suspended from the NT police force on pay since charges were laid. Much of the jury trial was closed to the public and media as the complainant gave evidence to the court over several days. The 2 charges related to alleged incidents in 2020. The first during a massage Mr. Carson gave the complainant, and the second on a couch in a house in Darwin's northern suburbs. Carson's barrister, Mary Chalmers, SC, told the jury on the first day of the trial there was no dispute the pair were alone together on the 2 dates in question, but that there had been no sexual intercourse of any description. Jurors were provided with more than 800 pages of social media messages between the complainant and Mr. Carson, which prosecutors alleged were equivalent to a chronicle of how to groom and take advantage of someone. Jurors took 40 minutes to come to a unanimous decision. Only 40 minutes. Wow. The court heard Carson and the complainant engaged in secret chats, which the Crown argued were to keep his worried wife at arm's length, and suggested the young woman was made to feel special by Carson. The defense barrister, Mary Chalmers SC, argued the complainant was at times a barefaced liar who had become infatuated with Carson throughout the course of their friendship. Others could clearly see she had some kind of infatuation with him, leaning on him, snuggling up to him. It's plain as day how she felt about Carson. That's what she said on a closing address. Chalmers SC said the pair may have been on the cusp of an affair, but refuted all accusations Mr. Carson had assaulted her. We're all grown-ups in this room. We know that these dalliances happen from time to time, and some of you might not approve of people having those dalliances with that particular age gap or those particular relationships. For example, he was a married man, she said. So the court heard the complainant texted a friend on the day of the first alleged incident saying, "We really nearly stuffed things up." A message, Chalmers SC said, indicated both she and Carson had been involved in something. It is very easy for a young woman like the complainant to make an allegation against a married man when there's only 2 of them there on the occasion in question. It is very easy for her to make up the allegation and very hard to disapprove. So what's happened is he is now suing the Northern Territory government for malicious prosecution after being acquitted. In a civil action filed with the court earlier this year, Carson claims prosecutors either did not honestly believe in the case or they did not have an objectively sufficient basis on reasonable grounds for such belief. He says he was arrested by members of the elite territory response group, which is, I can't believe they would arrest a fellow police officer, a serving member with that. So if you don't understand, so the elite territory response group it's in the Northern Territory, it's like the equivalent of a, in Queensland of CERT, or to generalize it a bit more, it's like the equivalent of SWAT. Think along those lines. That's what they've gone and sent out a kind of a SWAT equivalent to arrest one of their own. That's fairly heavy-handed, if that happened. So says so he arrested by members of them in 2020 September while visiting a McDonald's restaurant with his children before facing trial in June 2022. Wow. Before the trial began, Sergeant Carson says Director of Public Prosecutions Lloyd Babb, SC, who was also named as a defendant, rejected an application by Ms. Chalmers to withdraw the case. He claims that was despite the fact trial prosecutors Marty Ost, SC, agreed with the plaintiff's counsel that there was no reasonable prospect of the prosecution succeeding. So they're saying the prosecution understood that it was very, very likely it wasn't even going to succeed. They knew and understood their evidence was weak and they had nothing to really support these accusations. How are you even allowed to go ahead with this? So he claims malice may be inferred from the lack of an honest belief by the prosecutors in the case against him. However, the particulars of absence of reasonable and probable cause are almost entirely redacted from the documents and released from the documents released by the court. The institution and maintenance of the criminal proceeding in light of the material totally undermining the credibility of the complainant was high-handed and had a disregard of the proper purpose in bringing criminal proceedings. The conduct of the defendants requires the denunciation of this court via substantial, lawful, exemplary damages. He's also seeking aggravated damages as well as compensation for legal costs, reputational loss and distress, embarrassment and humiliation, which is obviously exacerbated by his public arrest. The criminal proceeding was instituted and maintained by the prosecutors for the dominant purpose of simply getting a result. That's despicable that can be the reasoning behind it. So he's saying that all they wanted was a result, as opposed to bringing a person guilty of a crime to justice, which is what you think if the prosecution is going to spend all this time, money, and efforts into bringing something to trial. You would think they were absolutely positive. It's not just a rolling of the dice and, oh, let's just see what happens. This is a serious charge. Anyway, it says it was instituted and maintained by the prosecutors because the plaintiff was a serving police officer and the prosecuting authorities did not want to be seen as protecting one of their own by not prosecuting the allegations. In its response, the NT government broadly denies the claims and argues some fall outside the relevant limitation proceeding period and that prosecutors were acting in good faith. Frustrates me. I tell you what, I hate this defense that government uses when they say, "Oh, we were just acting in good faith." It seems like they constantly hide behind this defense of acting in good faith, and it allows them to virtually do anything, get away with anything. Government officials, politicians use this excuse. Police, especially the hierarchy officers, inspectors above, they kind of use this excuse all the time as well. "Oh, we were just acting in good faith. You can't blame us. We were just trying to do our best. That's all." And you sit there going, "Well, I'll just have to take your word for it that you're acting in good faith." Because it actually feels like you're behaving with malice towards me. Sometimes, so many times, it seems like they were behaving with malice and contempt, and they were actually going out and trying to attack someone for personal reasons. But then they always come back and say, "Well, it was in the public interest. We're trying to trying to do these things for the public interest, and we were just acting in good faith. So you cannot come back and try and blame me or accuse me. I am completely innocent of everything. It's all your fault for being an innocent victim, bystander in all of this. And, I've got nothing to answer for. They never have anything to answer for. It infuriates me. And if all I've never understood how they can justify government, police, they all justify, well, it's about perception. We want to be, we don't want to be seen, like they said in this, they said they did not want to be seen as protecting one of their own. So the Northern Territory government and the Northern Territory police, you'd have to wonder, after what happened with what happened with Walker, the Indigenous gentleman who was shot by the police officer Rolfe, shot and killed, and then what the coroner has said, and the investigation that went into that, and how it really seems like police at the Northern Territory Police really dropped the ball in their handling. They mishandled that investigation. So then the pendulum swings the opposite way when it comes to pursuing someone for a serious allegation in the courts. Instead of investigating thoroughly and pursuing the truth and pursuing justice and pursuing what was justice for everyone involved, the pendulum swings back the other way because all they're worried about is perception. Whereas if they just went after the truth and justice, it's easy to justify why you didn't pursue this in the courts. If you can present all the information, this is the problem. They never want to present all of the information, but it always comes out. I shouldn't say it always. They never want to present all the information. They're always trying to keep things secretive. They don't want to tell everyone everything, and so they just go ahead and pursue these things, get it all dragged out in the court. They destroy someone's life. This would be soul destroying. It's destroying for your family. This police officer, and then they turn around and say, "Well, we're just acting in good faith." No, no, no. You lying, pretentious. You weren't acting in good faith. You were trying to cover your butts. All you were doing was being concerned with public perception instead of worrying about the truth. This is why the public just don't trust government, don't trust police, because they're always trying to cover their backsides, and they're always just too worried about perception instead of reality, instead of truth, instead of justice. And they're always making up the excuse, well, it was we're acting in good faith, instead of holding people accountable. They tried to hold this chap accountable without the evidence to back it up. But none of, like, the prosecution, they're not going to be held accountable. I guarantee they're not going to be held accountable. Anyway, this is all my opinion. Please let me know what you think. I'm j-fallon. Give me a like and a share if you really, really care. And check out my music if you can. j-fallon, thanks for listening.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher.